Hello, and welcome to I Hate Talking, a podcast about talking, including etymology, frustrating topics, current events, and other random subjects. I'm Adam.
And I'm Steph. We are married, and we invite you into these discussions with us as we talk about the good and the bad of talking.
We hope you enjoy today's episode. Welcome to episode 25 of I Hate Talking.
Hi, everyone.
So if this is your first time listening to this podcast, welcome.
Yeah, and if this is your 25th episode, welcome to y'all, too.
Or it could be even your 26th because there was our bonus episode.
Oh, cool.
And there's also a few of you out there that probably heard 2 test episodes when we were starting this podcast, but those have been since unpublished, and maybe we'll have that in a bonus area someday, but for the time being, those are in our own personal possession only.
So just hi to everybody. If you hear our voices, hello.
There you go. We'll discover the entire world and beyond. So I just was downstairs and got my pickle juice so that we're ready to record.
Gross.
And when I was down there, I saw hundreds of ducks.
That is an extremely odd sentence. I was going down for my pickle juice where I saw a bunch of ducks. Like the
Not just a bunch, hundreds.
Hundreds. Yes, 300. First, you have to address. You can't just say I was going to get my pickle juice because that is so weird. Most people do not just drink pickle juice.
That is true. If you would like to know more specifics about the pickle juice, you can go back to a previous episode, and that would be episode 18 about our favorite toxic drinks. However, in this case, I do not consider pickle juice a toxic drink, but it is very tasty and gives you some extra salt and other things in terms of things that are critical for ketosis, which, again, alluding to that, haven't talked about it yet. It will be a future episode for sure.
You want to talk about it so bad. I know it.
But I do have my pickle juice, and I'm ready to go. So we're ready.
Okay. Well, so you have your pickle juice. You're drinking it out of the jar. This is his pickle juice jar. And you were downstairs, and you hundreds of ducks.
That's correct.
So tell us, were they real ducks? Were they?
No, these were plastic ducks and miniature in size, and they were glued to a campaign slogan.
Yes. One of our children is running for something for their school, a leadership role, and they just happen to love duckies. Rubber ducks are their fascination. And so they've really dived in, pun intended, to this duck theme, and they got a duck tie to wear to their campaign speech. They and that whole family pitched in. He envisioned this. He printed everything, ordered it, and we all sat there this afternoon and glued hundreds of ducks to his campaign slogan.
Precisely. And then those will be handed out to the student body in an attempt to get some name recognition and belief in his platform.
Yes. It's amazing down there. I was really proud of them, too, all the kids, for working so hard and gluing them. It was a really great assembly line that they developed and did it really efficiently. I thought it was going to take forever and be such a mess, but it worked well. And you even noticed a couple of the ducks were facing the opposite direction. All of them were facing the same way except for a few. And that was extremely intentional because those papers were cut off-centered and they wanted the duck to read the slogan. So a few of the ducks, there's only, 3 or 4 out of hundreds that are facing the wrong way. But the rest of them were all perfectly centered and facing great.
Well, there you go. So I think it's appropriate that our word or phrase of the episode is duck. And for those that are first-time listeners, we usually, or always thus far, have a word or phrase of the episode that we will talk about the definition and etymology and just common usage. And today's word is duck.
Okay, so tell us about it.
Well, I think that the water bird would be well known to most people. It's basically that animal that has a blunt bill, short legs, webbed feet, and a waddling gait, according to the Oxford Language Dictionary.
Oh, cute.
There's also, I think, the familiar term that most people will know in terms of the verb duck, where you're going to get out of the way of something, usually by moving to a lower elevation. So according to, again, the Oxford Dictionary, it means to move your head or body downwards to avoid being hit or seen. So to duck down or to duck.
Does that derive from the animal duck? Because I know, I'm picturing when you say that, the ducks, how they dive down under the water. Would that be where it comes from?
So that actually appears to be the exact reason that is used as that verb, is that there is duck, which is of Germanic etymology, that means diving bird, and then came to be used in the Old English as duck for that particular verb because it is a diving action.
Nice. There you go.
There you go. So there's actually a few other definitions for the word duck. There is a mollusk that is found off the Atlantic coasts of America that is called a duck. And there's also an amphibious transport vehicle that is known as a duck as well.
Mm-hmm. Those are cool. They're the ones that can go on land or on water, right? Back and forth.
Precisely. And then there are some slang usages for the word duck, and it can mean specifically addressed to a person usually. It could be one that is odd, harmless, or funny, that they are an odd duck, or that they are just a duck when you're talking about them being odd or funny. And it also can be used as an affectionate term for one another, that you would call somebody that as sort of a nickname in terms of endearment.
Yeah, one of our nieces, that's her nickname. And it fits her. When I think of that, I think of someone small and just cute and just, so innocent and sweet. And I don't know if that's what it means, but that's what I picture when I hear that as a term of endearment. And that's definitely what she is.
Precisely. And then there is the duck emoji. We're not going to go into emojis because I don't consider them words, but in, I guess, everyday common usage, there is a duck that has a particular meaning within common usage today as well.
So again, going back to our kids, I when I'm messaging them, they love emojis, so I try to do them. And then I often will say what I mean after it, and they just roll their eyes at me like, you don't have to tell us. You already sent the picture. I always want to make sure people know what I mean. So I always feel like I have to qualify what the picture means.
And I guess I'll take back my words. We will give the definition of the duck emoji according to TikTok, which I've never used TikTok, so I'm too old.
This is where all the good information comes from.
Yeah, it's from TikTok. It means, quote, you're feeling kind of shy, according to this.
Oh.
So not sure if that's true or not, but there you have it.
Well, TikTok never lies.
Well, and it's from a search engine that gave me an AI-generated thing from TikTok, so it's gone through all the checks and balances.
There you go, for sure. Also, you have to be careful when you are typing duck in, or it is shocking the amount of slogans or stickers. Because our son, who loves ducks, always wants duck stickers or things like that. And I always have to proof them because he doesn't understand the double entendre used. But you just have to be really careful that it's age appropriate and situationally appropriate.
Precisely, and actually on that particular word on the QWERTY keyboard, you're only one letter away from one word and then another letter away from a different word. So some things that you want to be very precise in your typing as well.
Yes.
Very good. So on to our main topic of this particular episode.
Are we talking about ducks?
Well, we are talking about ducks, and we recently were at an event where we saw a duck floating on a lake, and it
Oh.
was hard to tell whether it was real or not.
Okay, well that was embarrassing. We were at a friend's wedding. It was beautiful. We're so happy for the couple. And there was a duck in the lake. My friend asked me, a different friend we were sitting with, waiting for the ceremony to start, if it was a real duck. I was like, oh yeah, definitely. Both our husbands instantly were like, no, you guys, it's not real. And you both continued to explain why I was wrong. And I own it. That duck never moved. It was fake in that pond the whole night. But then another real bird came, and then I was questioning that one, and y'all were teasing me whether that one was real or not.
Yep, so it was quite windy. There were actually some small waves on that lake, and the said duck was sort of just bobbing there, not really making any particular effort to go in a certain direction.
Maybe it was enjoying the weather.
And turning in all different directions, and did not really appear very colorful, because it did have the shape of mallard duck, which I think the mallard duck does have a pretty distinguished shape. But it was more just like a dull brown color.
Well, that's the
and
females.
was sort of featureless.
The males are colorful. The females are more dull. It was a beautiful female duck watching the wedding.
And then the real bird that you mentioned that did come about was a great blue heron. And it is very possible to not think that those are real, because part of their hunting procedure is to stand very, very still.
Right. So then when you guys teased me about it, it was standing so still, and I couldn't recall if it was there earlier in the night or not. And I was not confident enough to say yes or no.
So there you go. Powers of observation are important for ducks as well.
So yeah, so the wedding was beautiful. The fake duck was pleasant and nice to look at. We also had the opportunity to celebrate our anniversary, our wedding anniversary recently. And so that was super exciting and fun. And it just made me a little nostalgic for how we met 15 years ago. And the fact that we were long distance. We actually only saw each other 21 calendar days before we said I do.
Wow, 21. That is a very small number. That is smaller than I would have guessed.
Yeah. So I was thinking we should talk about what it's like to be long distance, because our relationship went really quick compared to what traditionally I think how it goes. We met less than 9 months later, we're married. And like I said, only 21 actual physical days spent together. But we had hours a day of phone conversations or text messaging.
Precisely, and that, I think, is the biggest thing that comes to my mind in terms of a long-distance relationship, specifically ours, right? Because that is something that we specifically do, was spend a lot of time talking, and that was mostly through phone calls. I guess at the time, right, like television phone calls was like new and something that one could do. So I guess did we use Zoom or a Zoom equivalent? What was it?
We use Skype.
Skype. There you go. So we had Skype back in the day.
You went out and you specifically bought a webcam so we could Skype. And then you asked me to be your girlfriend over the webcam.
There you have it. So, yep, we had used that technology. And then, like you mentioned, a lot of texting. I guess we did some email as well, but mainly texting was our form of communication in addition to telephone and Skype, and then those infrequent in-person visits. But as I was saying, the most important thing for us in our long-distance relationship was that because we were long-distance, it forced us to have conversations and to be able to talk at length, so that while there may be people that are dating for a longer period of time and doing things in person, that we probably had the equivalent or even more of conversation time during our relationship leading up to our marriage.
I think so. I think that's why our relationship moved so quickly was because we just had hours of getting to know each other. When you are physically with each other, when you're learning to date, you're usually bowling. So you're just chit chatting here and there, but you're focused on that. Or you're going to the movies. So you're not really talking. But here, if we wanted to spend time together, we had to talk. There was really nothing else we could. Occasionally, we'd watch a movie together. We'd turn it on and watch it while we FaceTime. Or I guess FaceTime wasn't a thing. We watched it while we Skyped. But that was so hard to do. I think we only did it a handful of times. So, yeah, we had to really get to know each other and our thoughts and opinions about things.
Yep, and that was probably due to the fact that at that time in technology, I don't think we really could record things on television either. So we were watching it live, and that was what had necessitated that to some degree.
Yeah, I think we had to record on. It's ridiculous to say these things. We're not that old, but we had to record on a VHS, and then I played it back when we could watch together.
Indeed, that's what the technology was at that time.
I don't even think our kids would know what a VHS was.
They probably would not. I don't think they would know that term, nor would they even know what that is if they saw that particular thing. I guess we could do that as an experiment sometime and see what happens.
Yeah, that sounds fun. So, would you recommend long distance, or would you avoid it at all cost?
So I would, I think, temper that answer based on what I would know about the person asking the question, because I think that everybody has their own certain scenario and their own individual likes and dislikes and temperament, and that it would greatly depend on what I knew about that person and their potential or existing relationship. I would not really take a hard line one way or the other. I think, again, it would depend on the exact scenario and situation. So I would certainly recommend it to somebody that I thought it would be something that they would have success from. But likewise, if I thought that they would not have success from it based on their specific situation, then I would not recommend it. But certainly can work. And I think that certainly the in person relationship and relationship building can work as well.
Yeah, and even though the name of this podcast is I Hate Talking, obviously I don't hate talking, and you're iffy on it. But I think one of the things I love most about you is your brain and your critical thinking. And so I think that we spend a lot of our time, like right now, or other times, talking to each other. And so I think that being long distance really was just natural for us. Neither of us we're not really big bowlers or hikers and things like that. Someone might want to go rock climbing, and that's how they would bond. But that's not necessarily how we bond when we do stuff. We like to get a cup of coffee and talk for our dates.
That is very true. I certainly we do have some shared experience where we are doing something together, and that is creating that bond as well. But yes, to your point, I think a lot of our most cherished memories are probably just conversing, and that may have been through those technological means in our dating phase, or it may have been in person at those particular events. You know, getting a cup of coffee or having a meal or just lounging about wherever we may be on vacation or a date or within our own backyard.
Yeah. So I think that maybe for us, being long distance worked really well for us because it set us up for talking like that. For somebody who really does hate talking, I feel like long distance could be very difficult.
Right, and we are predisposed to that being perhaps one of our core relationship functions is talking. So maybe if you are not predisposed to that, then long distance relationships may not be as easy of a thing to do.
Right.
And that is something that we did spend a lot of time on our anniversary trip doing, was just talking. We, I think, ate very well on that
Mm-hmm.
particular trip. Enjoyed some sushi and then pizza and a distillery, and then I think pizza again. And then the next day, we had
Pizza.
pizza for breakfast, and then went and got ice cream. So we ate very well, but all the while, I think we're enjoying each other's conversation during those particular meal times and experiences as well.
Yeah, it was so nice. It was very much what we needed and great for that time frame. We had just had a little weekend away, and we didn't go very far from our home. We didn't. It wasn't this extravagant big thing. It was just sweet. It was such a sweet time. The only things when you asked what I wanted to do, I wanted a fancy cocktail, and I wanted a rooftop pool. So you worked really hard to find that, and it was so cold. It had been so hot the days leading up to it, but I refused to get out of that pool because this is the only thing I requested was that rooftop pool. So I sat there even though it was so cold.
Indeed, yeah, we had some weather roll through, I think that day, in fact,
Yeah.
of the trip. So we weren't even sure if we were going to have access to said pool because of poor weather conditions, but that did pass before we got to our destination. But it did cool off significantly because of that. And still enjoyed a lot of time on the pool deck, just hanging out. And then, yeah, to your point, did suit up and go to the pool. And they had the lounge chairs actually in the shallow part of the water, which the water was just like an inch too high.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but otherwise, it was quite enjoyable. But the water was cold because for those that know me, I will not really let that be a thing that prohibits me from getting in the water. I will typically get in the water at relatively cool temperatures, but even myself, I did not get into the pool other than to sit on said lounge chairs.
And I wonder if the water was, like you said, it was slightly too high. And I wonder if it was because of all the rain we had a couple hours prior, that if maybe that messed up the water levels. But I think you also were surprised that I got in the pool because, yeah, cold water doesn't bother you. It has to be bath water or warmer for me to get in. But I was determined. We said we were going to do this, and we did it.
Yep, I was surprised, but you did it, and we were there for a little while, and then promptly headed inside after that.
Yes. And then I think after that, we went and got more pizza. So that was why we got 2 sets of pizza.
Indeed, yep, that was the reason.
It was also interesting where we stayed because there were a lot of foreign visitors staying there, not a lot of Americans. And so it was great sitting there listening to their conversations and their thoughts on the city that we live in, and getting their take on the USA and the city that we live in and what they thought of us all.
Yep, that was interesting. And also, we witnessed live, I guess, the legal dispute between ESPN and the TV service providers, I guess DirecTV. I think Disney was actually maybe in that as well. I guess they own ESPN. That would be the reason. But yeah, they pulled that while we were actually at one of those eateries. And basically, every channel that particular establishment had going, which I guess they were showing some of the Paralympics and some of the other stuff going on, a lot of sports type stuff. Every single TV went to that screen that said there was a legal dispute. So the owner of the establishment, I guess, was watching some of those games. I think there was a relatively large football game on at the time, and they weren't able to finish watching that. So they did have one channel available, so they put all the TVs on that one channel.
Yeah, it was really crazy that we were sitting there. We weren't very invested in what was playing, but it was hard to miss that all of the screens went to that and announcement. So like it caught our attention because like, oh, what is going on? Is there an emergency or whatnot? And then everyone started pulling out their phones to fact check and see what's happening. And yeah, even the owner was like, well, I guess this is what we're doing, guys.
Indeed. So, yeah, I think in terms of the conversations, right? Again, we had a lot of good conversations during that time, and good conversations during this podcast and this episode, as well as the 25 or previous episodes that we've had.
Yeah, it's been great.
So now being married and in person, do you find that we have more or less time for conversation than in our dating phase?
Well, definitely less. Some of that is because we have a bunch of young people that live in our home. And so even when we talk, we have to stop. And even again tonight, I had to say it to one of our children, like, we're going to talk to you in a minute. Mom and dad are talking. And they want to be in the conversations with us. And we love having them in the conversations with us. But sometimes we have to make a plan about something or go through the schedule for the week is what we were doing. And they wanted to show us something. So having them stop and wait is important. And sometimes, obviously, we can stop what we're doing. So we do stop a lot of what we're doing often to tend to them or talk to them. So that cuts into our time talking. When you travel for work, we talk a lot more, I feel like. Because once again, that's the only time we get that connection. And we have to be intentional about it. I think that's a big thing too, is I set aside, you're going to call me at such and such time and we'll talk for that 30 minutes. So I think when you're thinking of like concrete time, like quality over quantity, I think we talk more when you're traveling or back then beforehand because we had to set that time aside. Because you can tell when you're on the phone to somebody and they're busy doing something else. That seems super, can be hurtful, or it just seems like you're not important to them. So we always try to stop what we're doing to talk. But then when we get together in person, it is easy to just sit aside each other with our phones in our hands or get distracted very easy doing something else.
Right. Or like you said, not set that specific time frame aside, which that actually was something that we discussed in episode 4 back when we launched. And that was actually one of the most popular episodes from our launch episodes on when can we talk. So perhaps some things that if you are dating in person, that you do want to emphasize the importance of a conversation and set aside specific times. And perhaps we can do the same in our relationship today when we don't have those opportunities for long distance conversations.
Yeah, I think that's healthy for anyone, whether they are long distance or just dating locally or married. Just saying you are important to me. So let's set this time aside. We don't have to worry about the dishes getting washed. We don't have to worry about the yard being tidied or whatnot. But we're going to look at each other and talk.
And that puts us on that journey to understanding.
Yeah.
So, from your friends at I Hate Talking, and until next time, remember, it is only through talking that we begin the journey to understanding.